My brother's best friend became my safe person. When I came out, then confessed he was in love with me at my 23rd birthday, despite knowing I'm gay. My brother Jordan's best friend Peter was basically our third sibling. After his dad bailed when he was 14, my parents absorbed him into our family. Every Christmas, every vacation, Peter had a front row seat. It used to drive me insane as a kid, but sophomore year, the annoying pseudo-brother became my actual lifeline because I came out to Peter before anyone else. We were sitting in his beat-up Honda after midnight, and I just word vomited it out between bites of gas station nachos. I expected him to stare, be disgusted, something, but instead he hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. He thanked me for trusting him and promised he wouldn't tell a soul. That was it. There was no weird energy at all. I actually thought this might be the start of an awesome sauce friendship between us. But then, junior year happened. You see, this girl I'd been texting invited me to a party 3 hours away. She was my world at the time, so I sped over without a second thought. Imagine my heartbreak when I found out she never liked me, and that I was just her experiment before going back to her boyfriend. I remember not knowing who to call, so I called Peter sobbing at 2 a.m. from some sketchy rest stop. He drove the 6 hours round trip immediately. He bought me terrible coffee, and he let me ugly cry about being someone's gay phase the entire ride home. That was when I thought it was fully safe to trust him. It stayed like that for a whole 6 years. I had come out to other family by then, and was openly dating a girl named Melanie, but Peter was always my #1 safe space, the guy who was there for my journey since the beginning. But then on my 23rd birthday at the lake house turned everything inside out. Seemingly for no reason, Peter had been acting like someone replaced him with a nervous android. He was extra jumpy, weirdly formal, and kept staring at me when he thought I wasn't looking. Jordan cornered me in the kitchen asking if I'd noticed Peter being weird. I brushed it off because denial is a powerful substance. But when dinner came, I couldn't ignore it. The way he'd orchestrated seating so I'd be next to him. How he tensed when our hands touched when we reached for salt. My stomach started doing that thing where you know something terrible is coming. After dinner, Jordan suggested a walk by the lake, just the three of us. We all agreed. And it's while walking that Peter launched into this speech about how much I meant to him. I cut him off there and then, with my own friendship speech, because that's what we were doing, right? I pulled him into a hug and whispered he was a second brother to me. He went rigid. Red flag number 1000. Walking back, Peter stopped dead. Jordan was just ahead. Peter turned with this expression that made my skin crawl. Desperate and determined. Then he said it. He was in love with me. In love. Romantic comedy. Want to kiss me in love. My brain short-circuited. I actually laughed because surely this was a joke. Then reality hit. All those nights I'd cried about being terrified to come out. Every conversation about Melanie, about how Peter was the only guy I felt safe around because he didn't see me that way. It was all fake. A lie. Jordan's voice cut through, demanding to know what Peter was doing. But I was already backing away. Pieces clicking into place. That rescue drive junior year, was he jealous? Not protective? All those times he'd listened to me talk about crushes? Was he waiting for me to change my mind about men? The arguing started. Jordan lost it, accusing Peter of pretending to be his friend to get close to me. Then he dropped the bomb. 6 months ago, Jordan came out as bi to Peter. Got basically nothing. A pat on the back. My brother's huge moment, and Peter couldn't even pretend to care because he was too focused on his chance with me. I locked myself in my room, deleting 3 years of photos while Peter's car pulled away. Had to come out to my parents to explain why their bonus son was suddenly persona non grata. Mom looked like someone died. In a way, someone had. But life went on. I started therapy, and my girlfriend Melanie was incredible, but something felt wrong. It stayed feeling wrong for a long time. 2 years later, Jordan's wedding felt incomplete without Peter in the wedding party. I broke down and texted him from a new number. I don't know what I wanted. Maybe just closure. We met for coffee. He looked calmer, genuinely apologetic. He tried explaining how he'd confused different types of love. I asked if he'd write to Jordan, who'd cut him off. On the morning of the wedding, while fixing Jordan's tie, he mentioned seeing Peter yesterday, just standing outside, wanting to see him happy. They'd shared a nod. We hugged and called each other actual siblings, both missing the third who should have been there. During the reception, Jordan kept glancing at the door. Melanie squeezed my hand. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number thanking me for letting them see Jordan happy, asking me to take care of our brother, telling Melanie she was lucky. I showed Jordan. He started typing, then deleted it. When I asked what he was going to say, he shook his head. Nothing that would help, but his face told the real story. After everything, my brother still missed his best friend Peter. And maybe, in some complicated way, so did I. I heard nothing about Peter from Jordan for the next 3 months, nor did I hear anything from Peter. Until I got the call that Jordan had been in a car accident on the highway coming back from a work conference. The real shocker? The nurse said he was asking for Peter from his hospital bed, delirious from pain medication, listing names like a roster, wife, parents, sister, Peter. I sat in the waiting room for 10 minutes, watching the coffee machine drip and debating with myself before breaking my own rule. I called Peter from the hospital bathroom, whispering like someone might catch me. He showed up within 20 minutes, looking like he'd thrown on whatever was closest, mismatched shoes and a shirt inside out. We didn't talk, just sat on opposite sides of Jordan's bed while he slept. The steady beep of monitors filled the silence. The doctors said he'd be fine, just needed rest and observation. Peter left before Jordan woke up properly, but not before straightening Jordan's blanket and leaving a bottle of his favorite Gatorade on the bedside table. Jordan remembered though. Asked me why Peter wasn't there when he opened his eyes for real, voice rough but certain. I lied and said I hadn't called him. Jordan gave me this look like he knew I was full of it but didn't push. Just closed his eyes and whispered okay, in a way that meant it wasn't. A week later, Peter texted asking about Jordan's recovery. I sent back one-word updates, each one feeling like pulling teeth. Fine, better, home. He asked if he could visit. I said no. Jordan found out because of course he did, and we had our first real fight since the lake house. He said I was being controlling, voice rising in his living room while his wife tried to disappear into the kitchen. I said I was protecting him. We didn't talk for 3 days, the longest we'd ever gone since we were kids. Mom made us both come to Sunday dinner to work it out, using her teacher voice that meant business. Jordan brought up Peter again over pot roast, said he missed his friend, said I didn't get to decide who was in his life. I reminded him what Peter did, how he'd used us both. Jordan said people make mistakes, that growth was possible. I said some mistakes you don't come back from. Dad finally stepped in and said we were both right, which unalived the conversation pretty quick but solved nothing. 2 weeks passed slowly. Jordan started physical therapy for his back. I drove him twice a week because his wife Catherine had work. One day Peter was there, in the parking lot, leaning against his car like he'd been waiting. Jordan had texted him the schedule. They talked for 20 minutes while I sat in the car, watching watching through the windshield as they gestured and nodded. When Jordan got back in, moving slowly but steadily, he said Peter was coming to dinner on Sunday. I told him I wouldn't be there. Jordan said that was my choice, but his jaw was tight when he said it. Sunday came and I stayed home, ordering takeout and watching movies with my Melanie. She went to my parents without me, kissing my forehead before she left. Said it was awkward but not terrible when she got back. Peter mostly talked to my parents, asking about their garden and mom's new job. He helped with dishes without being asked. Normal stuff that made my chest ache. Jordan texted me after saying I was being stubborn, that Peter had asked about me. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete the message either. The next Sunday I caved and went to dinner. Peter was already there when I arrived, helping mom set the table with a good china she only used for holidays and when she was trying to make a point. He looked up when I walked in but didn't say anything, just nodded and went back to placing forks. I sat as far from him as possible, which wasn't very far in our cramped dining room. Dinner was painful. Everyone trying too hard to act normal. Dad asking about work, mom pushing seconds on everyone, Jordan filling every silence with stories about physical therapy. Peter barely looked at me, focusing on his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. When our hands almost touched reaching for the salt, we both jerked back like we'd been burned. Melanie kicked me under the table, a gentle reminder to breathe. After dinner, I escaped to help mom with dishes while everyone else moved to the living room. She washed, I dried, neither of us talking about the elephant taking up space in every room. Through the doorway, I could hear Jordan and Peter talking about some TV show they both watched. Their laughter sounded forced, but they were trying. When mom handed me the last plate, she touched my arm and said, sometimes forgiveness was more for us than them. I didn't answer, just put the plate away and went to find Melanie. Peter started coming every Sunday. I went most weeks, skipping only when work gave me an excuse. We developed this careful dance of avoidance. He'd arrive after me, leave before me. We'd sit at opposite ends of the table. If I was in the kitchen, he'd be in the living room. If he was helping dad in the garage, I'd be upstairs with mom. Jordan noticed but stopped commenting after I snapped at him for playing matchmaker with someone who'd betrayed us both. 6 weeks into this new normal, Peter brought his girlfriend to dinner. Amanda was petite with curly red hair and a laugh that filled rooms. She worked at a nonprofit, loved hiking, and looked at Peter like he hung the moon. I watched him introduce her to my parents, his hand gentle on her back, and felt something twist in my chest. Not jealousy, but something more complicated, like watching someone else live in a house you used to own. Amanda was aggressively friendly toward me, clearly briefed on the situation. She complimented my shirt, asked about my job, tried to find common ground. I was polite but distant, answering questions without asking any in return. Melanie carried the conversation, better at social graces than I'd ever be. When Amanda went to the bathroom, Peter finally looked directly at me. She doesn't know everything, he said quietly. Just that we had a falling out. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The girlfriend became a regular fixture. Amanda fit into our family dinners like she'd always been there, helping mom cook, discussing books with dad, making Jordan laugh with stories from her work. Even Melanie liked her, and Melanie was picky about people. I started to relax incrementally. With Amanda there, Peter seemed safer, contained, just another family friend with appropriate boundaries. Then Amanda mentioned wedding planning over dessert one Sunday. Casual, like she was discussing the weather. Peter choked on his coffee, turning red while Jordan pounded his back. Amanda looked confused at the sudden tension. Did I say something wrong? She asked, glancing around the silent table. Mom jumped in with questions about venues and dates, smoothing over the moment, but the damage was done. Peter excused himself to the porch. Jordan followed. Through the window, I watched them talk, Jordan's hands moving animatedly, Peter's shoulders hunched. I found out later from Jordan that Peter hadn't told Amanda he was planning to propose. She'd found the ring in his sock drawer and assumed it was common knowledge. The proposal happened 2 weeks later at the park where they'd had their first date. Amanda said yes. Peter called Jordan first, then his mom, then sent a group text to our family. I stared at the announcement for 20 minutes before typing, congratulations, and hitting send. They set the wedding for next fall. Amanda threw herself into planning with enthusiasm that bordered on obsessive. Every Sunday dinner became a wedding planning session. Color swatches and menu tastings and debates about flowers. Peter mostly stayed quiet, nodding along with whatever Amanda suggested. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at nothing, this distant expression on his face, but then Amanda would ask his opinion on centerpieces and he'd snap back to attention. Jordan was going to be best man. Of course he was. They'd been best friends since elementary school. One fight couldn't erase that. Peter asked him officially over beers in our parents' backyard while the rest of us were inside. I watched from the kitchen window as Jordan hugged him, both of them getting emotional. Later, Jordan told me Peter had offered to pick someone else if it made things too complicated with me. Jordan had refused, said I'd have to deal with it. I did deal with it, badly. Started making excuses to miss dinners. Work was busy. Melanie's family needed us. I had a headache, stomach bug, prior commitment. Mom saw through every lie but didn't call me out directly. Just sent increasingly pointed texts about family being important and not letting pride get in the way of love. I ignored most of them, responded to others with single-word answers. The breaking point came when Amanda asked Melanie to be a bridesmaid. We were at a coffee shop, just the two of us meeting for lunch, when Melanie told me. She'd already said yes, caught off guard and not wanting to hurt Amanda's feelings. I stared at my sandwich, appetite gone. My girlfriend was going to be in the wedding party of the man who'd pretended to be my safe person while harboring romantic feelings. The same man who'd dismissed my brother's coming out because he was too focused on me. Melanie reached across the table for my hand, said she could back out, make an excuse. I shook my head because what was the point? The wedding was happening. Peter was marrying someone else. Everyone was moving on except me, stuck in this loop of anger and hurt and something else I couldn't name. I told Melanie it was fine, forced a smile, changed the subject to her sister's new baby. That night, I called my therapist for an emergency session. Spent 50 minutes word vomiting about boundaries and betrayal and why I couldn't just let it go like everyone wanted. She asked if I was angry at Peter for falling in love with me or for lying about it. I said both. She asked which hurt more. I couldn't answer, just sat there crying in her beige office while she pushed tissues across the coffee table. 3 days later, Peter showed up at my apartment. First time he'd come to my space since everything imploded. I answered the door in pajamas, not expecting anyone. He stood in the hallway looking uncomfortable, holding a box I recognized. My stuff from his apartment, things I'd left behind in the before times, books, a sweatshirt, the mug I always used for coffee. Amanda found these while we were packing, he said. Thought you might want them back. I took the box without inviting him in. We stood there awkwardly, him in the hallway, me in the doorway. Finally he said, I know you hate me. I started to protest automatically, then stopped. Did I hate him? The word felt too simple for the mess of emotions I carried. I don't hate you, I said eventually. I just don't trust you. He nodded like he'd expected that answer. I know, he said. I wouldn't trust me either. He turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, he said without looking back, I'm trying to be better. In therapy, working on understanding why I did what I did. Not for you or to get forgiveness. Just to not be that person anymore. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. Just watched him walk away, then closed the door and unpacked the box. Everything smelled like his apartment, like the home I used to have there. Amanda cornered me at the next Sunday dinner. Not aggressively, just determinedly. Waited until I was alone on the porch, then came out with 2 beers and a look that meant business. I know something happened between you and Peter, she said without preamble. He won't tell me what, just that he messed up badly, and you have every right to hate him. She handed me a beer. I'm not asking for details. I just want you to know that whatever he did, he's genuinely sorry. He has nightmares about it sometimes. I didn't want to know that. Didn't want to picture Peter losing sleep over our fractured friendship. It was easier when I could imagine him moving on without a backward glance. He told me he loved me, I said, surprising myself. At my birthday party, knowing I'm gay, after years of being my safe person. Amanda's face went through several expressions before settling on understanding. Oh, she said quietly. That explains a lot. We sat in silence, drinking our beers and watching the sunset. Finally, Amanda said, I knew he had feelings for someone when we met. The way he talked about this person, how much he'd lost. I assumed it was an ex-girlfriend. When I found out it was you, that you were Jordan's sister, I thought maybe there was hope for reconciliation, but now I get it. She turned to look at me. I'm sorry for what he put you through and for pushing the family dinner thing. I didn't understand. I wanted to dislike Amanda. It would have been easier if she was awful or clueless or wrong for Peter in obvious ways, but she was kind and smart and genuinely trying to navigate this mess with grace. He's lucky to have you, I said, meaning it. She smiled sadly. I think we're both trying to move forward, she said. Him from you, me from the ghost of what you two had. Even broken. It was something special. That night I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Peter having nightmares, about Amanda competing with a ghost, about the box of my things sitting in my closet. Melanie curled around me, asked what was wrong. I told her about the conversation with Amanda. She listened without judgment, then asked what I needed. I said I didn't know. She said that was okay, just held me until I finally drifted off. The wedding planning intensified. Every dinner became a production of fabric samples and vendor meetings. Peter started looking more and more stressed, dark circles under his eyes and a tension in his shoulders that reminded me of the lake house. Amanda didn't seem to notice, caught up in creating the perfect day. Jordan noticed though. Started making excuses to get Peter out of the house, take him for drives, or to grab coffee. Brother duties, he called it. One Sunday, Jordan got held up at work and asked me to pick up Peter. Said he was at his apartment having a panic attack about boutonnieres or something equally ridiculous. I almost said no, then remembered Jordan driving to the hospital after his accident. Favors owed and all that. I texted Peter I was coming, didn't wait for a response. Found him sitting on his kitchen floor, surrounded by wedding magazines and looking completely overwhelmed. She wants orchids, he said when I walked in. I'm allergic to orchids. It was such a simple thing, but he looked destroyed by it. I sat down across from him, careful to keep distance between us. So tell her, I said. He laughed, but it sounded wrong. I can't tell her anything. I just nod and agree because I'm so grateful she wants to marry me after everything. The everything hung between us, unspoken, but understood. That's not fair to either of you, I said carefully. Marriage built on gratitude instead of honesty won't last. He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time in months. Like a friendship built on lies, he asked. I flinched but didn't deny it. Yeah, I said. Exactly like that. We sat there for a while, not talking, just existing in the same space for the first time since before. Finally, I helped him gather up the magazines, stack them neatly on the counter. Talk to Amanda, I said as I headed for the door, about the orchids and whatever else. She deserves honesty. He nodded, looking young and lost. Thanks, he said quietly. I left without responding, but I thought about that conversation for days. Peter must have talked to Amanda because the next Sunday she announced they were scaling back the wedding. Something smaller, more intimate, just family and close friends. She seemed relieved, like a weight had lifted. Peter looked calmer too, reaching for her hand across the table. They smiled at each other, private and real. For the first time, I could see them as a couple with a future instead of a disaster waiting to happen. Then Amanda asked about the guest list for the bachelor party. Casual question directed at Jordan, wondering if he needed addresses for invitations. Jordan went still, glancing between Peter and me. We haven't really discussed that yet, he said carefully. Amanda looked confused. But the wedding's in 3 months, she said. Shouldn't you start planning? The table went quiet. Mom suddenly remembered dessert in the kitchen. Dad decided the garage needed immediate attention. Jordan cleared his throat. It's complicated, he said. Amanda's eyes went wide as understanding dawned. She turned to Peter. You haven't asked him to plan it because of her, she said, not accusingly, just stating fact. Peter couldn't meet her eyes. It's fine, Jordan said quickly. We'll figure it out. But Amanda was already standing, napkin twisted in her hands. Excuse me, she said, and disappeared upstairs. Peter followed her. Through the ceiling, we could hear muffled voices, rising and falling. Melanie squeezed my knee under the table. Jordan stared at his plate like it might provide answers. 20 minutes later, they came back down. Amanda's eyes were red, but she was composed. I'm sorry, she said to the table at large. I didn't realize how much our wedding was asking of all of you. She looked directly at me. Especially you. That's not fair. I wanted to say it was fine, brush it off like I'd been doing for months. Instead, I said, no, it's not. The honesty felt strange but necessary. But it's not your fault either. You didn't create this situation. I looked at Peter, who was studying his hands. We all just have to figure out how to live with it. Amanda nodded, reaching for Peter's hand. He took it, but his grip looked fragile. That night, Jordan called. Said Peter was thinking about postponing the wedding, not calling it off, just pushing it back. Give everyone more time to adjust. I told Jordan that was stupid, that Peter shouldn't put his life on hold because of me. Jordan agreed, but said Peter was spiraling, convinced he was hurting everyone by trying to be happy. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. I did something I hadn't done in over 2 years. I called Peter directly. He answered on the 3rd ring, sounding surprised and wary. Don't postpone your wedding, I said without preamble. That's not what anyone wants. Silence on his end, then a shaky breath. I don't know what to do, he admitted. Everything I try makes things worse. Amanda deserves better than this mess. Then be better, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. Stop making decisions based on guilt or what you think people want. You love her? He said yes immediately. She loves you? Another yes. Then get married, have your bachelor party, live your life. Just stop expecting everyone to pretend the past didn't happen while you do it. He was quiet for so so long I thought he'd hung up. Then he said, "I'm sorry for everything, for lying to you, for making you feel unsafe, for ruining what we had. I'm so sorry." His voice cracked on the last word. I closed my eyes, feeling something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. "I know," I said. "I'm working on accepting that." We hung up without saying goodbye, but it felt like progress. Small, painful progress, but movement forward nonetheless. That weekend, Peter and Amanda sent out save the dates with a note about keeping the wedding as planned. Jordan started actually planning the bachelor party, keeping me informed but not involved. Boundaries, my therapist called it. Healthy ones. The weeks passed in a blur of wedding preparation and careful navigation. I helped Melanie pick out her bridesmaid dress, offered opinions on shoes, listened to her practice her speech. She didn't mention Peter in it, focused instead on Amanda and new beginnings. I appreciated the thoughtfulness, even as it highlighted the elephant we all danced around. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mom insisted on a final family dinner with everyone. Mandatory attendance, she said in her teacher voice. Even Peter's mom was invited, flying in from Florida where she'd moved after the divorce. I hadn't seen her since before everything fell apart. She hugged me tight at the door, whispered that she'd missed me. I'd missed her too. Another casualty of Peter's confession. Dinner was actually pleasant. Peter's mom told embarrassing stories from his childhood. Amanda laughed at all the right parts. Jordan did impressions of their elementary school principal. For moments, I could forget the weight between us all. Then I'd catch Peter watching me, this expression I couldn't read, and remember why we were all trying so hard. After dinner, Peter's mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "I know what happened," she said quietly. "Peter told me after the lake house. I'm sorry for what he put you through." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. She continued, "I think about it sometimes. If his father leaving messed him up about love, made him confused about different kinds, not an excuse, just wondering where I went wrong. You didn't," I said firmly. "Peter made his own choices. You gave him a good foundation. He just got lost for a while." She smiled sadly, touched my cheek like she used to when I was young. "You're a good person," she said. "I'm glad my son had you in his life, even if he messed it up." The past tense stung more than I expected. 3 days before the wedding, Jordan's bachelor party happened. Nothing wild, just camping at the lake where we'd grown up. I saw the pictures on social media later. Jordan and his college friends, Peter trying to smile but looking tired. They'd invited some of Peter's coworkers to fill out the group, strangers who didn't know the history. Jordan told me later it was awkward, everyone trying too hard, but they'd managed. The night before the wedding, I had my own breakdown. Hit me out of nowhere while I was ironing my dress. Suddenly I was sobbing, grieving the friendship we'd lost all over again. Melanie found me on the closet floor, held me while I ugly cried about missing my friend. Not the Peter who loved me, but the one who existed before that. The one who drove 6 hours to rescue me, who practiced coming out speeches, who was simply and uncomplicated my person. "I don't know how to do this," I told Melanie between sobs. "How to watch him marry someone else when I can't even forgive him for loving me in the first place." She stroked my hair, let me get it all out. Then she said, "You don't have to forgive him. You just have to let him go. Those aren't the same thing." She was right, but it didn't make it easier. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. I helped Melanie with her hair, zipped her into the lavender dress Amanda had chosen. She looked beautiful, and I told her so. We drove to the venue together, her hand in mine the whole way. The parking lot was already filling up. I recognized most of the cars. Our extended family, mutual friends from over the years, people who'd watched Peter grow up as one of us. I found my seat next to my parents, Jordan already at the altar looking handsome in his tux. Peter stood next to him, hands clasped in front of him, that same nervous energy from the lake house. When the music started and Amanda appeared, his whole face changed. Pure joy, uncomplicated and real. She looked radiant, smiling at him like he was her whole world. In that moment, I felt something release in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acceptance maybe. The ceremony was beautiful. Amanda had written her own vows, talking about finding home in unexpected places. Peter's were simpler, but genuine, promising to be honest and present and worthy of her trust. When he said that last part, his eyes flickered to where I sat. Brief moment of acknowledgement before focusing back on his bride. They kissed, everyone cheered, and just like that, Peter was married. The reception tested every boundary I'd built. Assigned seating put me at the family table, close enough to the head table to see every moment. Jordan's best man speech was careful, focusing on friendship and growth and finding the right person. He told the story of meeting Amanda for the first time, how Peter's whole demeanor had changed. No mention of why he'd been so broken before her. Amanda's sister gave a speech about love healing old wounds. I drank more wine than advisable. During the father-daughter dance, Peter's mom asked me to dance. We swayed to some old song, her hand gentle on my shoulder. "He's happy," she said, watching Peter spin Amanda around the floor. "Really happy. First time in years." I knew what she was implying, the weight of those years. "Good," I said, meaning it. "He deserves to be happy." She squeezed my shoulder. "So do you," she said. "Don't let his mistakes define your future." Later, Melanie and I slow danced while the wedding party did some choreographed number Amanda had insisted on. Peter moved through the steps with concentration, clearly having practiced extensively. Jordan kept making faces at him, trying to break his focus. Normal groomsman behavior, normal wedding joy. I turned away, buried my face in Melanie's shoulder, let her hold me up. The night wound down slowly. Speeches and toasts and cake cutting. Peter and Amanda smashing frosting on each other's faces, laughing like kids. My parents dancing to their wedding song. Dad spinning mom like they were young again. Jordan pulling his wife onto the floor, whispering something that made her laugh. Everyone coupled up and happy and moving forward. I was standing outside getting air when Peter found me, still in his tux but tie loosened, hair messed up from dancing. "Thank you for coming," he said, staying a careful distance away. I know it wasn't easy. I shrugged, not trusting my voice. He continued, "Amanda wanted me to tell you something. She said you'd understand. She said thank you for giving her the ghost." The words hit me unexpectedly. Understanding what Amanda meant, that I'd finally let go enough for her to have all of Peter instead of competing with the memory of us. "Tell her she's welcome," I said quietly. "And Peter, be good to her. Be honest. Don't let her wonder if she's enough." He nodded, throat working. "I will," he promised. I learned that lesson the hardest way possible. We stood there for a moment, the party continuing inside, music muffled through the walls. Finally, Peter said, "I know we can't be friends again, not like before, but maybe someday we can be something, family, but different, if you want." I thought about Sunday dinners, about boundaries and healing and time. "Maybe," I said. "Someday, but not yet." He accepted that, nodded once, then went back inside to his new wife. I found Melanie talking to my mom near the dessert table, took her hand, ready to leave. As we walked to the car, I looked back once. Through the windows, I could see be Peter and Amanda dancing, Jordan and his wife beside them. My family, complicated and messy and trying. Tomorrow would bring more Sunday dinners, more careful navigation, more slow progress towards something like peace. But tonight, I just wanted to go home with my girlfriend and rest. The drive home was quiet. Melanie held my hand over the center console, thumb rubbing circles on my palm. You did good today, she said as we pulled into our parking spot. I'm proud of you. I brought her hand to my lips, kissed her knuckles. I love you, I said. Thank you for being my person. She smiled, understanding the weight of those words. Always, she promised. Inside our apartment, I hung up my dress and thought about the future. Peter would come to Sunday dinners with Amanda now. There would be holidays and birthdays, and eventually maybe kids who'd call my parents grandma and grandpa. Jordan would tell stories about growing up, carefully edited to avoid the painful parts. We'd all pretend a little, smooth over the rough edges, build something new on the ashes of what we'd lost. It wasn't forgiveness, not completely. Maybe it never would be, but it was forward motion, and for now, that was enough. I curled up next to Melanie, let her warmth chase away the echoes of the day. Tomorrow, I'd process it all with my therapist, unpack the grief and growth and grudging acceptance. Tonight, I just wanted to sleep, knowing I'd survived the hardest part. The rest we'd figure out one Sunday dinner at a time. The next few months were actually okay. Peter and Amanda settled into married life, and Sunday dinners found a new rhythm. They'd show up together, her hand always touching his arm or back like she was anchoring him. He seemed calmer, less jumpy around me. We still didn't talk directly much, but the awful tension was fading into something more like awkward politeness. Then Amanda got pregnant. Announced it at Thanksgiving dinner while we were passing around Mom's green bean casserole. Peter's face when he told everyone was something I'd never seen before. Pure, uncomplicated joy mixed with terror. Jordan jumped up and hugged them both, already talking about being the best uncle ever. My parents cried. I said congratulations and meant it, even as my stomach did this weird twist I didn't want to examine. The pregnancy changed things. Amanda had brutal morning sickness, so Peter started coming to some dinners alone. First time that happened, we all froze when he walked in without her. But Mom needed help with the turkey, and Jordan was late, and somehow Peter and I ended up in the kitchen together peeling potatoes. We worked in silence for 20 minutes before he asked if I thought they'd be good parents. Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. You'll be great. Amanda went on bed rest at 6 months. Something about blood pressure and needing to stay horizontal. Peter looked constantly terrified, checking his phone every 5 minutes during dinner. Jordan started going over to their place more, bringing food and keeping Peter company while Amanda slept. He'd come back with updates and stories, slowly making their life part of our regular conversation again. One night, Peter called me directly. First time since before the wedding. Amanda was in the hospital, early contractions, and he was losing it. Jordan was out of town for work. My parents were at some retirement party. I don't know what to do, he said, voice shaking. She's scared, and I'm scared, and I just need someone to tell me it's going to be okay. I drove to the hospital without thinking about it. Found him in the waiting room looking like he'd aged 10 years in 10 hours. He started crying when he saw me, these exhausted tears of relief. I sat next to him, careful not to touch, and let him talk about how Amanda was everything, how the baby was everything, how he couldn't lose them, how he'd already lost too much by being stupid and selfish, and he couldn't handle more loss. The doctors got the contractions stopped. Amanda had to stay for observation, but she and the baby were fine. When they finally let Peter back to see her, he asked if I wanted to come. I shook my head. That felt like too much. But I waited until he texted that everything was stable before I left. Drove home thinking about how crisis has a way of stripping everything down to what actually matters. Amanda stayed on hospital bed rest for 3 weeks. Peter practically lived there, only leaving for showers and clean clothes. Jordan and I took turns bringing him food, making sure he ate. One afternoon, I found him asleep in the chair next to Amanda's bed, her hand in his, both of them looking exhausted but holding on. I left the sandwich I'd brought and slipped out quietly, something settling in my chest. The baby came 2 weeks early anyway, healthy but tiny, this perfect little girl they named Sophia. Peter called Jordan from the delivery room, crying too hard to make sense. Jordan put him on speaker so we could all hear the baby crying in the background. My mom started sobbing. Dad opened champagne even though it was 10 in the morning. I felt this weird pull of joy and grief, happy for them but mourning something I couldn't name. They brought Sophia to dinner when she was 6 weeks old, this tiny perfect thing that slept through all the noise of our chaotic family. Peter looked different as a dad, softer somehow but also fiercely protective. The way he watched Amanda holding the baby, like they were his entire universe, which I guess they were. Jordan held Sophia for an hour straight, already wrapped around her tiny finger. I kept my distance at first. Babies were fine, but this was Peter's baby, and that felt complicated. Then Amanda asked if I wanted to hold her while she went to the bathroom. Handed Sophia over like it was nothing, like of course I'd hold her friend's baby. Peter watched from across the room but didn't say anything. Sophia was warm and smelled like baby powder and something sweet. When she wrapped her tiny hand around my finger, I felt my heart crack a little. Things shifted after that, slowly, but definitely different. Peter would hand me Sophia during dinner so he could help clear plates. We'd end up talking about normal stuff while I bounced her. Work drama, TV shows, nothing deep, just regular conversation like regular people who happened to share a complicated history. Amanda noticed, started leaving us alone more, but not in a pushy way, just giving space for whatever was happening. When Sophia was 4 months old, she got sick, just a cold, but her breathing sounded wrong and Peter called me at midnight, panicking. They were at the ER. Amanda was a mess. Could I come? I threw clothes on over my pajamas and drove too fast. Found them in pediatric emergency. Sophia hooked up to monitors, breathing treatments making her tiny chest work too hard. I sent Peter to get Amanda coffee and sat with her while he was gone. She was shaking, kept apologizing for him calling me. You have your own life, she said. We shouldn't drag you into our drama. I told her to shut up, that this was family stuff and family shows up. She started crying harder. When Peter came back, I took Sophia so they could hold each other, walked her around the waiting room for hours, humming songs I half remembered from when Jordan and I were kids. Sophia was fine. Bronchitis, needed breathing treatments for a week but nothing serious. They sent us home at dawn with medication and instructions. I drove them because neither parent was in any shape to be behind the wheel. Got them settled at home, made sure they had everything they needed. Peter walked me to the door, exhausted but grateful. Thank you, he said, for coming, for staying, for everything. I just nodded, too tired to maintain walls. After that, the boundaries I'd built started feeling less necessary. Not gone, just softer. Peter would text updates about Sophia, pictures of her trying solid food, videos of her laughing. I'd respond with heart emojis or short comments. Nothing deep but connection. perfection. Jordan said it was progress. My therapist said it was my choice. Melanie said she was proud of me for trying. Sunday dinners got easier. We'd sit closer to each other, pass Sophia back and forth without the careful distance. Sometimes our hands would touch during the transfer and neither of us would flinch. Amanda would tell stories about Peter as a new dad, how he'd sterilized everything twice and read every parenting book in existence. He'd turn red but laugh along. Normal family teasing. It felt almost comfortable. Then Sophia started crawling and everything went chaos mode. She was fast and fearless and determined to eat everything she could reach. One Sunday she managed to get hold of Peter's phone and somehow called his work while gumming it. We could hear his boss through the speaker, confused about the weird breathing sounds. Peter grabbed the phone, mortified, while the rest of us laughed until we cried. Even I couldn't help it. The whole thing was too ridiculous. That's when I realized I'd actually forgiven him. Not in some big dramatic moment, just gradually over months of watching him be a good husband and father. Seeing him put Amanda and Sophia first in every decision. The way he'd grown into someone who understood different kinds of love and kept them in their proper places. He wasn't the same person who'd confused friendship with romance at my birthday. That Peter was gone, replaced by someone I could maybe trust again. I told my therapist first. Spent a whole session unpacking what forgiveness meant versus reconciliation. How I could forgive him without going back to what we were. She said healing wasn't linear, that I might have setbacks, but this was good progress. I felt lighter leaving her office, like I'd been carrying weight I hadn't noticed until it was gone. Telling Melanie was harder. We were cooking dinner, music playing, when I just blurted it out. I think I forgave Peter, I said, stirring pasta like it was a casual observation. She stopped chopping vegetables, came over and hugged me from behind. How do you feel about that? She asked. I thought about it, really considered. Good, I said finally. Tired, but good. She kissed my shoulder and went back to cooking, understanding I'd said what I needed to. I didn't tell Peter directly, didn't see the point in some big announcement, just started treating him more like family again, asking about his work when he looked stressed, offering to watch Sophia so he and Amanda could have a date night. Small things that added up to something bigger. He noticed but didn't push, just accepted the olive branch for what it was. Jordan noticed too. Pulled me aside after dinner one week, eyes suspiciously bright. Thank you, he said quietly, for trying, for letting him back in, even a little. I shrugged, uncomfortable with the emotion. He's Sophia's dad, I said. That makes him family. Jordan hugged me anyway, too tight like always. Still, he said, thank you. The real test came at Sophia's first birthday party. Big production at my parents' house, pink everything because Amanda had gone overboard. Half the neighborhood invited plus all the family. Peter asked if I'd help set up, just the two of us the morning of. First time we'd been alone together for more than a few minutes since everything exploded. We hung streamers in awkward silence for 10 minutes before he cleared his throat. I know you've forgiven me, he said, focusing on tying balloons, or at least started to. I just want you to know I'm grateful, and I'm sorry. Still sorry. Always going to be sorry for hurting you. I stopped hanging the banner, really looked at him. I know, I said, and I appreciate that. But maybe we can stop apologizing now? Just move forward? He smiled. This careful, hopeful thing. Yeah, he said, I'd like that. We went back to decorating, but the silence felt different. Comfortable almost. When we finished, the backyard looked like a pink explosion. Perfect for a 1-year-old who wouldn't remember any of it. But Amanda would love it, and that's what mattered to Peter. That's who he was now. The party was chaos. 30 people, 5 other babies, someone's dog that kept trying to eat the cake. Sophia destroyed her personal smash cake with enthusiasm, getting frosting in her hair and ears. Peter and Amanda were glowing, taking a million pictures, thanking everyone for coming. Normal parent stuff. I helped mom serve food and referee the bigger kids, feeling settled in a way I hadn't in years. Late in the party, I was cleaning up wrapping paper when Peter appeared with Sophia. She's been fussy, he said, but she always calms down with you. Would you mind? I took her automatically, bouncing her the way she liked. She grabbed my necklace and settled against my shoulder, exhausted from all the attention. Peter started to walk away, then turned back. You know you're her favorite aunt, right? Besides Jordan's wife, but that's just because she has toys. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Good to know I rank above toys, I said. He laughed. Real and easy. Always, he said, then went to help Amanda with something. I stood there holding Sophia, watching my family celebrate in the backyard where we'd all grown up. Peter included, because that's what he was. Family. Not the same as before, but maybe that was okay. Maybe different could be good too. That night, helping load presents into their car, Amanda hugged me tight. Thank you, she whispered, for all of it. For forgiving him. For being here. For loving Sophia. I hugged her back, this woman who'd married my former best friend and made him better. Thank you for being patient with us, I said. She pulled back, eyes wet. Family's complicated, she said, but it's worth fighting for. Driving home with Melanie, I felt peaceful. Really peaceful for the first time since that night at the lake house. You did good today, Melanie said, linking our fingers. Really good. I brought her hand to my lips, kissed her knuckles like always. We all did, I said, and for once I actually believed it. We'd found our way through the mess to something new. Not perfect, but real. A family that included Peter again, just in a different place than before. The next Sunday dinner felt like a new beginning. Peter and Amanda brought Sophia in her high chair, everyone talking over each other about the party. Jordan teased Peter about crying during the cake cutting. Mom showed off the 800 pictures she'd taken. Dad told the same story about my first birthday that he told every year. Normal family chaos, with everyone in their right place. After dinner, I helped Peter get Sophia's diaper bag packed up. Just the two of us in the hallway, comfortable quiet between us. Same time next week, he asked, settling Sophia in her carrier. Yeah, I said. See you Sunday. He smiled, that easy, genuine smile I'd missed without realizing it. Looking forward to it, he said. And weirdly enough, so was I.